So today topic is we're discussing Black home ownership in America, right? It is Black History Month,
Mhm.
and Quiana and I both are ownership advocates. We don't care if you're buying your primary residence, investment property, a vacation home. We don't really
Tiny
care.
home, just buy
A
something.
tiny home, a commercial property. We don't care. Just own some ish, like
Yeah,
Aisha Selden says, right? And
yeah.
that's what we're all about. But I think a lot of you listen to a lot of internet people and you don't want to buy real estate. You want to wait or you want to rent. And that's your prerogative. But I think you guys got to really understand the history of ownership in America and the trials and tribulations that our people went through to even be in a position where today we can buy homes freely with no problem. It wasn't always like that, right, Kiana?
No, I agree. It was not always like that. We can't discount the power of the fact that we have the ability to purchase real estate, not as minorities. At a time we weren't able to, and just really think about that. We're in Black History Month, right? This is the month of February. I feel like Black History Month should be every month. But when we think about our history and the history of home ownership, it wasn't that long ago that we were unable to, as realtors,
Mhm.
even practice real estate as and be a part of the board of realtors. Beyond that, it wasn't too long ago where we were getting redlined and we were unable to buy property. And it's important that we highlight those obstacles and those challenges, and then go from there where we can continue to bridge the gap. Right? We need to bridge the
100%.
gap, and I want to share some data with you guys, if I will. And so, if you can think about it, new research from the Urban Institute says that we have not moved the needle at all when it comes to Black home ownership in the last 40 years. So,
Correct.
while we see so many people celebrating home ownership, there is still a huge group of people that are unable to, or don't have the education or the resources to buy a home. And we need to, like, our focus needs to be on making sure that we close the wealth gap by advocating for home ownership, educating about the importance of home ownership in different ways to achieve it.
No, I agree with that, man. And I think, we got to take it back, to the 1930s of when all this redlining and everything started. And just kind of give you guys a lay of the land, right? If you're not familiar with redlining, matter of fact, Tooks, let's put up the map of redlining. Let's show you guys what redlining look and just listen to what I'm about to say right now, right? So in the 1930s, the FHA, so in the Great Depression, let's start here. Great Depression of the 1920s, early 1930s delivered a real punch to Americans, right? Everybody was getting out of work. The American average income slumped to less than half of what it had been for the past few years. And more than 1 million Americans have faced foreclosures on their home, right? So at the time, Franklin D. Roosevelt was the president. And he established a couple programs out there to stimulate the economy. And one of those programs was the Federal Housing Administration, right? Now, the Federal Housing Administration, aka FHA, was born, and one of the main things of FHA is that FHA refused to insure houses for Black families or even insure homes for white families that were in neighborhoods that were close to the Black ones. So, if you're looking at this photo right here of a map, this is an example of redlining. So everything that you guys are seeing on the screen right now is where FHA would not lend to folks. And if you were in that yellow, those were the quote unquote white neighborhoods. And if you were too close to those redlining areas, FHA would not even insure your mortgage. Go
Mhm.
figure, right? Now, today we use FHA like it's the end all be all. But in the 1930s, 40s, this was not the case. So if you can see this map right here, and if many of you haven't seen this before, this is what it looked like, right? So all of those people, Black areas could not get affordable loans to buy houses. And it was really deemed only for white people. You can take it off the screen right now. So,
And I can
it's
tell
kind of
you,
crazy
hmm
when
and
you really think about this shit.
redlining happened, and even today you can see small remnants of redlining still happening in our society. And I want to say that's because deep down, when you think about America, America knows that home matters. Home ownership matters. And when you know that home is wealth and that home means family and that owning a home means freedom, what happens is certain people want to take that freedom from you.
Mhm.
And we have to, as people, start recognizing that we need to focus on owning property and owning real estate because we won't make any more land, and stop thinking about, oh, I want to rent, I want to live in the city. You can buy a property in a location that you do not live in. Because when it comes to the data, look at how many black out of white and black households, when they own homes, researchers have found that the home ownership gap is huge. It's about 21 percentage points. And it has remained that constant throughout the entire 40-year period where we haven't moved the needle. I don't know about you all, but I'm disturbed by that statistic. And it brings us back to, we have the power. This podcast gives you the power. It gives you the tools and the resources to own property.
Facts. That is a fact. We're giving you all the resources. We're giving you the information. And like Quiana said, we haven't moved the needle at all, right? What our people have fought through from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the segregation, all the housing discrimination. Let's talk about appraisals, racist, at times also. All of these things, our people fought through, they marched for, right? And now we take all of that stuff for granted. And it's pretty sad, that we forget where we came from because, we live in a social media world. It's a microwave society that we live in. And people forget shit. You forget what you posted this morning, in all honesty, let alone something that happened 50, 60 years ago, right? So I think it's very important that, number one, we don't forget FHA, how that program came into the world and how it was introduced and what the law was. The law has said it cannot insure Black people, right? Black people could not get FHA loans.
Absolutely
Right?
not.
And that was the head start that white Americans had. But they still have it right now. And unfortunately, our people, we were born up in generational poverty. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
Where white America was growing up in that generational wealth because of this head start, and we were not able to catch up. Now we have these type of platforms like Earn Your Leisure, like Rants and Gems, and other things that are out there. There's really
Right.
no excuse right now. The home ownership rate 30, 40 years ago was about 40 something percent, 42% or something like that. Today,
Right.
the Black home ownership rate is exactly the same thing, around 40 to 42%. It's absolutely ridiculous. In the past 5 years, from 2017 to 2021, Black homeowners across the U.S. remained the demographic in the United States with the lowest percentage of home ownership amongst the population. That don't make no damn sense to me.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.